Hello, welcome to Fiber Trek. My name is Sarah. Welcome, you are most welcome to our little life here in the North Woods of Maine. The ice is out and a variety of our birds have returned, such as these common mergansers. Spring has been revealing itself. A number of the trees are beginning to bud out. And I was really excited to have this pine warbler visit our feeder station. Rob did a marathon sap boil off beginning at 4:30 in the morning. You may remember he was tapping last time we visited together, and we have now put all of that maple syrup in the pantry for the upcoming year. On this edition, I am going to feature knitting. I have had a number of quilting projects resurface, including some English paper piecing, as well as patchwork. I am going to take you along on a trip to Ottawa, where I visited my friend Nicole. I've been focused quite a bit on a variety of different needlework projects, and I wanted to share with you a book that I have found in my collection that I'd forgotten and where that has taken me. I am excited to fill you in on what's been going on, and let's get started.
Appalachian sunrise meets my skin. Even with my eyes still closed, I can feel it coming in. Golden, golden, I'll follow only golden, 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 golden things.
Last month, my dear friend invited me to join her to go to the Portland Historical Society here in Maine to view an exhibition of clothing. And I was so inspired by the handwork on this particular dress. I immediately came home and wanted to work with my threads. And I also rediscovered that I had this book by Helen M. Stevens in my library. This is primarily thread painting, but I love looking at and taking inspiration from her use of stitches and shading and colors. I also just love looking at the motifs of landscapes and birds and animals. So I have really enjoyed revisiting this particular work. I don't aspire to do it, but again, with a cup of tea and a sunny afternoon, and again, love the look of these birds and just, I don't know, feeling kind of the powerful representation of nature and thread and all the different mediums that are coming together. For this particular piece, I am working from a pattern by Diana Vingart. She is on YouTube and has an Etsy shop. I'm using a combination of wool and linen thread. I really just wanted to play around with different textures and use some of my threads that I covet. That's actually mohair that I picked up when I was in Britain. And I don't have any particular plans for this. I was thinking maybe of making a bag out of it and and just incorporating it into some sort of practical, useful item, appliquing it onto a piece of clothing. So we'll see what comes of it. I've also taken some time to revisit my Marshma, which is kind of a sewing kit, and I'm hand stitching a Lord of the Rings Elvish theme onto it. Almost all the motifs are done. I have one more piece to do, and then I can do some embroidery work on that. But again, just being able to visit lots of different hand stitching techniques. Here's my work for Natalie Channon. This is going to be a coat, and I am just doing a back stitch around each of the motifs. This endeavor has led to other hand stitching and stitching endeavors, so let's go take a look at what's been going on in the quilt world. Earlier this month, my mom asked me to make her quilt with otters on it. And you're going to notice right away, there are no otters on this quilt. I wanted to use and try out this pattern by Debbie Maddie. This is the Rippling Star by Calico Carriage Quilt Designs. And while we did find some otter fabrics that were really interesting, piecemealing them together was difficult, and I thought it would be easier to work with one line. So we picked up this group from Esther Falloon called Forest Fable, and we added a few fabrics to it to round it out. But most of all the prints, etc., were of one designer. I needed to make quite a few half square triangles, and so I just sat down one afternoon in the sun. I was thankful that I was working on a larger pieces, and so I found that much easier to be precise. And I also had a precision ruler that I was using to square up my blocks. I definitely am not a precise person, and so that is my biggest challenge. You'll notice I'm sewing very slowly here down the line. And I'm also making a point to press without steam because I didn't want my blocks to kind of go askew. Now, I couldn't help myself from working on this quilt. I loved the fabric so much. I love that background fabric. I actually purchased that to do another quilt in, and I just loved everything about it, and it was exceptionally motivating. And so I found that over the course of a weekend, once I was done cutting, I've just about got half of the quilt pieced in the rows. I haven't obviously assembled those, and I'm just really thrilled with the progress, and I'm looking forward to giving it to my mom. I mentioned that I really loved this fabric, and the owls in particular really captured my attention. I put together this little vignette of illustrations, and at that moment, I knew I wanted to keep working with the other pieces in the line and adding to it. Not really sure where this project is going, but I just know that I want to do English paper piecing. I had seen a tutorial from Tula Pink on the Fat Quarter Shop, as well as Just Get It Done quilts. I'm just using a water-soluble glue. It's certainly not archival. You can also baste the fabric in place, but for me, I just wanted to get to stitching. I did cut the papers all on my Cricut, and I hand traced and cut the fabrics. So it's really quite a simple task, and it doesn't necessarily require a lot of precision, which appeals to me. I also really enjoy fussy cutting and pulling out specific illustrations, and obviously I really like the hand stitching part. The small tiny stitches, it's very portable, and again, getting to work with different colors and fabrics, really inspiring. So stay tuned for more on what happens to this particular project. As you can see, I have really been focusing on handwork and hand stitching, but not to the detriment of my knitting. And I've just tried to channel my inner Tasha Tudor. I think it was her who talked about devoting an hour each day to each different craft. And she did a ton of different types of making. And I've really tried to do that on my days off. I'm just wrapping up a vacation from school, and part of that vacation, allowed me to go and visit Nicole of the Gentle Knitter podcast for a few days in Ottawa, Canada. And I'm going to share some of that with you. And it also allowed me a chance to really dig in and get out materials, organize them, lay things out, and not feel like, oh, I've got to, do this and that and get packed up, ready to commute. If you're not familiar with my lifestyle, I commute to southern Maine for 3 nights a week to work, and then I come back north to my home here. So I'm with my parents. And it can be very difficult to decide what to take with me because I'm like, what am I going to feel like doing? Anyway, this nice long break, as I said, allowed me to really kind of dig in and lean in to some other projects I've wanted to get started on. I also think that with Ice Out, I've used that as kind of a framework, and I often find myself looking at those natural cycles, whether it's the moon or seasons or, the state of matter, to kind of, like I said, create a framework and ground myself in what's happening in my creative life. This, of course, does spill over to other areas of, managing stress and those types of things. But it's interesting to me that with Ice Out and kind of the invigoration of the landscape here with creativity, with the creation, buds and sap and all those things, it is not surprised me that I have looked and found some of these other crafts surfacing that had kind of laid dormant. And, I like having some way of thinking about that to turn to, because I know it can be frustrating for some of us where we feel like maybe we lost our mojo or we're not interested in something anymore. But I find that, again, when I look outward at the natural ebb and flow, wax and wane of what's happening around me, there is a wisdom to be found. And while it might seem trivial to think, oh, well, it's just knitting, that creative expression, however it chooses to come forward, whether that's knitting or quilting or picking fabrics or, video editing, it's a huge important piece of my own kind of spiritual space and how I work with the messages and information that are coming in and the experiences I'm having, those opportunities for growth, which can feel painful at some points. It's helpful to start easy with some of the way these kind of metaphors, so you can pick them up and place them around as you kind of go through different situations. Deep thoughts. Anyway, I just felt like I wanted to comment on Ice Out and that it does have kind of a bigger, deeper meaning. I think my battery was low. Sorry. Than just, there's like the physical shift, which is so bizarre to go from like a static piece in front of you to something in motion and dynamic. It's always a little bit jarring to kind of like, oh. And when the ice goes out, it goes out kind of in the day. There's usually a lot of wind and all of a sudden you're in a completely different space and landscape than you were, 3 hours ago. So So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm looking forward to sharing with you, Nicole and I, a quick, not interview, but a recap of things that we've done. So before we jump in, a deep, heartfelt thank you to all of you that tune into this project and invest some time here, and a special thank you for those that invest financially through Patreon. I am uploading bonus content to that channel once a month now, and this month I'm going to feature a series of acquisitions and discoveries that I've had over the past couple months. So I'll be talking about some new yarn, and I'll be sharing the fabrics that I picked up in Ottawa, as well as a couple other projects in the works that I'm starting to gather materials for. So I look forward to seeing you over there. We are going to chat about quilting and quilt shops with Nicole. And also Nicole is going to share on her podcast her kind of tried and true yarns that she likes to work with. So look for that on her channel. And I guess with no further ado, we'll go into the knitting projects and then we will finish with Nicole. I wanted to make a note that the sound is going to vary between this and Nicole and I. I did not bring my microphone with me when I did that video, and so you're going to see a shift, and you'll want to just be aware that that's coming in case you have it on full blast on your TV or you need to turn it up, etc. So that's coming. And I think that's all the administration I have as far as technology goes. Now, this sweater I've had a lot of opportunity to rip things out with this sweater. This is from Koftevoken, and it is a Norwegian pattern that my friend translated for us. We're both working on it together, and I've really made the whole thing up. It's supposed to be a cardigan, and I'm knitting it as a pullover. I made up my own numbers. I re-engineered it to knit. I don't know, maybe I didn't engineer it to knit it top down, but I am knitting it top down. I added short rows in the back, and so it's given me a lot of opportunity to work on different skills. And as I was saying, one of those is ripping out. So I had messed up the chart a number of times and had to rip rows back. And I think I was overzealous and I really wanted to finish this body. And so I started the hem and I cast off, but I wasn't done. I did try it on and I blocked it, and I think I need to add another 4 inches. So I've ripped out the hem and I'm adding more of the chart on the body, and I am going to then do the hem. I mentioned last time that I would be doing the hem in a garter stitch, and people asked if I went down a needle size, and I had not. It doesn't occur to me. That could be just a mark of laziness and or what's the word I'm looking for? I just didn't occur to me. So that being said, I will not be going down needle size when I do the hem, but I will be doing it in moss stitch this time. So I'm going to do the cuffs and the hem in moss stitch. That's what's recommended in the pattern, and I do love moss stitch. It does appeal to me. So this is knit in Hillesvåg in the Solia in the cognac colorway, and then the white yarn is Vilja, which is a lamb's, I think it's lamb's wool. My source for this stateside has been to go to Farm to Cable Yarns. She's located in Canada. If you have somebody in the States that you know carries it, please pass that along. It is actually one of my favorite yarns, and I have been highlighting it for a long time because I've been working on this project for a long time. I did bring back quite a few of the colors when I returned from Norway, and I wanted to just highlight those for you now. I had thought that I would be knitting a Marie Wallen primrose in this, so I got quite a variety of it. There is really good yardage on it, and I'm just looking to reference if it is Norwegian. So I just wanted to show you some of the really beautiful rich colors. It's not typical for me to get colors like this, but you're always looking for that little pop. So I have more than this upstairs, but I just wanted again to highlight the varied colors that you can get with these beautiful heathered and these deep, rich jewel tones where you really don't pick up any of the original kind of over-dyed gray. This beautiful ochre color, and the blues are really fantastic. But they all kind of have a light, dark, medium element to it. So they're, as they increase in value. And here's some of the neutrals. So again, just a really beautiful group of colors, lots to choose from, and a lot to play with for color work. I've really, like I said, enjoyed the yarn. It comes in a couple different weights. They have other types of yarns that are spun from different types of fleeces. But this is the Norse Pelsuggarn, which is a specific type of sheep. So, yeah, so those are all differentiated on the website and in the different bases. So anyway, I just wanted to highlight this yarn for you and show you a bunch of different colors and offer you some inspiration. I'd highly recommend checking out the Hillesvåg line. I've been looking forward to getting more of this on my needles. Let's see. So I tend to pick this up frequently because I don't need any paperwork with it. I can just knit it. The other piece that I'm working on is the cardigan by Jennifer Wood of Woodhouse Designs. And this is a cabled sweater that I'm knitting out of my hand spun. So I'm working on the raglan increases here, which is probably the thing that's kind of the most, I use the word limiting, but it's because I have to attend to what row I'm on and where I am in the chart. The cables that's not a problem. I can kind of read my work. But I'm really looking forward to this being done. I just love these big cushy cables in the front. The color is right up my alley, as you know. I mean, it's so funny to go from like something like, but this is very inspiring too, Sarah. So anyway, I have not changed anything on this. I'm knitting the third size. I think it's a 42. Like I said, I'm knitting it as written, and yeah, it was free for a while, but now it is available on Ravelry. I'm not sure if it is available on her website. So that's the knitting. I don't get very technical in talking about it. I hope that, mostly I really like talking about yarn and wool and application of that. And I don't really get into the technical design piece. So if there are lots of podcasts where people are doing a lot of great work about the technicality of the design and the fitting and all of those pieces. And I kind of just make it, I'm just like, will it fit? Does it work? Rip it back, which I think is probably one of our best tools, is to get really comfortable with ripping back and picking up stitches. I have. That being said, I'm going to turn us over to Nicole and have her talk a little bit about our trip to the Paisley Quilt Shop, and also a little bit about things that we did while we were there and general silliness. And I will see you on the other side. So couple things. One, we're under a little bit of a time crunch. So if this feels very rushed, just let us know and we'll talk. Because there's unbelievably, I'm in Ottawa.
Yes.
In the Northeast and Canada, but I have to head back to the northeast of Maine in the United States, and there's a nor'easter.
I know.
Bearing down, and I was supposed to stay the whole day, and unfortunately I'm going to get on the road.
I know, we're so mad because normally we're like, yay, snow.
I
And
know.
we're like,
oh my God, I know, like the
snow.
one time.
I know.
Some of you may know that we are super Lord of the Rings nerds, and
Yes.
we watch it virtually together, and unbelievably, we did not finish the trilogy.
No.
This time
Well, we thought we had plenty of time.
And we left poor Sam heading up to rescue Frodo.
In the tower.
In the tower.
Orcs.
Yeah. I got a lot of good Aragorn action, who is one of my favorites. And Eowyn as well. Inspires a lot of my work. And speaking of which, we did quite a bit of crafting and handwork while we were here.
Yeah.
And I know that those movies and the costuming inspire us in a lot of different ways.
Oh, so much. Yeah.
We, one thing Nicole worked on was, I got her started on a Sami bracelet.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But we also went shopping for some fabrics, because Nicole is working on a quilt, which is very much Hobbit inspired.
Yes, yeah, and I showed that. I don't know if maybe
By
I'll
the way,
introduce
did you
myself.
know that she has a podcast and it's Nicole, the Gentle Knitter?
Yeah, right.
Who is that person next to you?
Yeah, so and during Christmas Vlogmas, I did show off a quilt that was like 100% inspired by you, because you had shown me a quilt that you were interested in maybe making, and I'm not a quilter, but I saw the fabrics, and it was like William Morris fabrics in very, like very cottagey kind of like cozy colors, and I thought, I need to become a quilter. So I put it together, and I still need to finish the border, and then I'm going to be hand quilting the whole thing. But all that to say that I discovered that in my area is this incredible quilt store called Paisley Quilts. And the owner her specialty is William Morris fabric. So she literally has like the entire line. So we had the opportunity to go to Carp, Ontario, which is just outside of Ottawa, and visit Madonna's shop. And came back. I mean, you can't go to a quilt shop and not get fabrics, right? So
we both indulged in some fat quarter fabric buying. And you and I found Yoko Sehito, who is a quilter and does a lot of applique. And I think you were inspired to maybe do some of her work and maybe some English paper piecing, also known as EPP, not ESP, Sarah. So you were kind of moving through their collections with that in mind.
So I mean, I just can't resist. To me, it's like when you're choosing colors to make like a very lush color work project, right? And you just want all the colors, and you can't stop yourself, and you just buy a ton of fabric to make, probably like a little project.
I want you, Nicole has shared on her podcast with me her kind of tried and true yarns. You can check out when she publishes. But I just want you to grab your yell really quickly.
Oh, sure.
Because I want to look at these with your yell.
Yeah, no, it's. I definitely have a palette, right?
So aside from the gold, I think we're doing really well here with our colors.
I know. I'm
that
very
brown.
predictable.
But how beautiful, though, so in mentioning the color work, that really, it's not a hard leap to be pulling together fabrics for your...
And it's similar, too, in that if you're making kind of a scrappy style, like I was thinking either the Yoko Saito or I might do like a little hexy type of project. There's that similarity of, you can put a lot of colors together, but you only need little bits of each. So it's very like, it's just like going into a candy store where it's just like a little bit of this and a little bit of this. And putting it all together is very similar, I find, to like buying like one ball of this Jameson blue and then, Jameson Smith, and kind of putting it together in a beautiful blend of all kinds of lovely colors.
And she had fat quarters, fat 8 cuts. You can get whole yard cuts. She had kits. So if you know you want to work with a specific group of fabrics. But it was a really magical, we were just, and the way they were displayed was really easy to kind of navigate amongst color.
So I mean, we both did a bit of damage.
And I'll be sharing my damage as well. But I just wanted to have a chance to sit with Nicole and share her on this podcast. And we didn't do a lot of documenting because, well,
we were having too much
because
fun.
we didn't. But I got to spend some extra great birthday time here with some amazing meals and lots of Hobbit moments.
Yes, a little bit of like going out and walking.
Yeah,
in the
we
woods.
did some. I went to the Mount Bleu.
Mount Bleu,
Mount Bleu. Mer.
Like blue sea.
Yeah, blue sea. Mer Bleu.
Yeah.
And we got to visit the bog there. And so we had a nice time kind of being the gentle knitter's protege here.
Well, I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of it, we did the Sammy bracelets. That's you. We did the quilting. I mean, I get so much inspiration from what you do. And you're making, like, whenever I watch your podcast or whenever we, talk and spend time together, I always come back so inspired and so just filled up with creativity and joy
And you've got really, really good taste, which
thank
influences
you.
me.
Thank you. Well,
I don't think I would have this good of a taste
I
without
don't
my
know.
friend.
I don't know. I mean, I
don't know.
you know.
You've got a great eye, and I think that
I have a very
shifts on me.
specific aesthetic for sure.
So we were both kind of saying like, I gotta get home and work on this and work on that.
Yeah.
So it did feel invigorating after being away
Mhm.
from other people for so long who
Yeah.
participate in this type of work, because really I don't have friends in my space that want to go to quilt shops and come over and do like a sami making day or those types of things. So it's been hopefully you'll kind of see some of the fallout probably not a super positive word to use, but the spillover of that into the podcast in the coming weeks, because I know I'm already like, we're going to make this and I want to make that and I'm going to get my quilting going. So it's been invigorating and I'm so thankful.
So lovely, Sarah.
So, well, we're getting close to the
Gotta hit
snow
the
line.
road. Yeah.
And I know we wanted to do more, and I know we will be able to hopefully this summer.
Yeah.
And so we'll continue on. I'll be sharing a little bit more about what I've been knitting on and those types of things once I'm back in Maine, and we'll check in with Rob with his sap and his syrup and see if the ice has gone out. So
thank you, Sarah,
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Oh yeah, it was the best.
Oh.
All right, I'll see you on the flip side.
I hope you enjoyed that little peek into my time up in Canada with Nicole. I would encourage you, if you're not watching her podcast, to go check it out. She has a lot of great wisdom to pass along and beautiful tools and yarns that she can enable you with. And I find her podcast to be really relaxing and inspiring. That being said, I'm going to bid you a fond farewell. I, again, appreciate the time that you spend here with me. I look forward to seeing you next month in May, and we're moving closer to the summer, so who knows what projects we'll be working on then. In the meantime, many fun wishes and blessings, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Take care. Bye.